This is a self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh. He was a Dutch post-impressionist painter. Today, he is considered one of the most famous artists in history. His art is very distinctive, using beautiful colors, visible texture, and bold brushstrokes. Even if you're not an art lover, you can probably identify some of his most famous works of art. But when Van Gogh was alive, he didn't enjoy the same appreciation that we have for him today. In fact, Van Gogh once painted a portrait of a doctor and gave it to him. The doctor then went on to put it in his attic before using it to cover a hole in a chicken coop. By the way, that same painting, it's worth over $50 million today. Van Gogh was born in 1853 in the Netherlands. Van Gogh lived with his mom and dad, 2 brothers, and 3 sisters. Vincent was very close to his younger brother, Theo. Vincent's parents, Theodorus and Anna, took Vincent and his siblings on frequent walks in nature. This taught Vincent to see the beauty in the shape of a cloud or in the color of the sky. Vincent began drawing at an early age, but he didn't demonstrate any type of exceptional talent. He was a serious, quiet child. When Vincent was a teenager, he dropped out of school and began working as a trainee with an art dealer in The Hague. Vincent was eventually fired and also unsuccessfully tried his hand at being a teacher, a preacher, a bookseller, and a missionary. Struggling with depression, Vincent was eventually convinced by his brother Theo to focus on his drawing. At age 27, Vincent began to take art seriously. Theo was working as an art dealer, so the plan was for Vincent to send his art to Theo to sell. However, there wasn't much interest in Vincent's work, and Theo had to financially support his brother. Van Gogh's first major painting was The Potato Eaters, a scene showing a family of poor people eating a simple meal. While this showed Vincent's growth as an artist, it was a dark and gloomy painting. People wanted more color. Vincent lived on the allowance that Theo sent to him, spending more money on art supplies than food. His paintings became more colorful and his brushstrokes more visible. However, as Van Gogh's life became more stressful, his health began to decline. He began to have episodes that some historians have attributed to blackouts, bipolar disorder, or epilepsy. Eventually, Van Gogh hurt himself during one of these episodes, and he was hospitalized. He later checked himself into a mental hospital, where he spent an entire year. During this time, Van Gogh continued to create, and he made around 150 paintings, including The Starry Night. In 1890, 6 of Van Gogh's paintings were displayed in an exhibition in Brussels. One of the paintings, The Red Vineyard, sold during the show. It appeared that people were beginning to appreciate Van Gogh's work. After leaving the hospital in May of 1890, Van Gogh moved to a small village outside of Paris to be closer to his brother Theo. During this time, Van Gogh put all that he had into his art, completing a painting a day. For a while, it appeared that his health was improving, but his nervous episodes returned. On July 29, 1890, Vincent's life was cut short by his illness. Theo was by his brother's side at the time of his death. Van Gogh was 37. Vincent van Gogh's career as an artist lasted only 10 years, but he left behind over 850 paintings and around 1,300 works on paper. Theo died a year after his brother. To honor Theo's wishes, his widow continued to try and get exposure for Van Gogh's art. She loaned Vincent's art out to museums all over the world, and she published the letters that Vincent had sent to her husband. His popularity has continued to grow ever since.